You are recording.
All right. Now we're calling it to order.
Thank you.
5:31. Introductions. I'm Andrea.
I'm Jim.
Julia?
Jim.
Two Jims. And I guess that was our
I know who you are.
roll call.
That was our roll call.
Do we have a meeting summary? I didn't bring my.
Oh, I did not run extras, but yes, you do have a meeting
Did
summary.
you email that to me and I can review it
Yes.
from my phone?
I did email it.
I have it right here. Meeting was
September.
September,
26th,
Yes.
2019.
26th, yeah.
Looks
There's
like
the
myself,
summary.
Mike, two Jims, Paula, everyone was here,
except me.
except for Julia.
Yes, you had Gail as your...
We had Gail, and then Victoria and Pamela Webb were also present. How much of this reviewing, are we just reviewing it and,
Just look at it and see if it says, if it looks like the meeting you attended and the points that you wanted are there, and if anything got missed. And Gail's really good, so it's probably, just see if she missed anything or misinterpreted something.
she's great at record keeping.
She is.
She's excellent.
In fact, I wish she'd make them a little sooner so that I could use them.
Right?
Because I don't take notes. I can't read my writing after I write it down, so it does not work.
Yeah,
That was
it's
a good meeting, that last one, with the housing brainstorm stuff. I
was.
felt like that was a really I learned a lot.
Well, they're not any of it can be implemented, that's
To be determined.
yeah.
Okay, I think that
I'm just a cynic.
you're not alone. So I think we're all good with the review of the summary from last meeting.
Anybody have any changes or modifications, or, not that that's not redundant either, but. So you all kind of agree that the summary is okay?
We agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't mark anything.
And now the Jim to my left. Were you able to make it to,
The larger group
the
meeting,
countywide group meeting?
I was, and as I just mentioned, I don't take notes, so
Right.
it's pretty difficult to. But going back and looking at the agenda got fairly well, touched on most of the things there. And a little bit got into ways of breaking lots out for small homes in forest and farmland. The Southwest group certainly has some interesting takes on things. That
I remember that.
I don't really understand, but
I wish I could have been there for that. Does someone provide like a meeting summary for those that I have an email with that too? And I just don't.
there
The
will be
CAC.
one for that.
There will be,
It's
okay.
just not done yet.
Okay.
And everything goes on the website.
Okay.
So you can look at everything on the website, but it's going to probably be a week before the meeting.
For me, it's easier for me to sit there and go over it than sit through those meetings where everybody's
Read
making
it.
political and everything else. It turns me off.
Mr. Magyar.
Hooray, our president is here to take over.
I don't know if I would.
I can stop
President.
talking with my
Yeah, I
mouth.
don't think I applied for that job.
Or chairperson, I don't know, what do we call it?
General,
Yeah.
Captain?
Instigator?
Ooh, yeah.
DOS.
Instigator. Can I have one of these? I know one was sent to me.
I have another one up there, I think.
Then I'll take that one.
Yes, we didn't bring ours either. And grab a snack if you need.
Yeah, get something to eat.
With all of these educational things that I've been attending, they all tend to kind of run together. It's hard to differentiate.
How's everybody doing today?
We're doing well.
Yeah?
Our brief announcement, unrelated to everything we're doing here, but I see the card that you have that I gave you all at the last meeting.
Yes. How did that work?
We found out today that we came in third place. We got over 90,000 votes, and we secured full $150,000 worth of funding for historic preservation for our building. So,
Awesome.
pretty awesome.
90,000 votes for a 9,000 person community.
It's pretty amazing.
That's, well, or 9,800, whatever. That's pretty awesome.
Heck yeah.
That's
It's
crazy.
incredible how many people,
A lot of OCD people in Astoria,
for
apparently.
real.
I mean,
You're
really.
telling me.
hadn't considered that
comment.
It was
before.
a hugely,
Some of us won't admit to it.
Well, county workers don't really meet the public as much as they should, so.
Oh, yeah,
would
right.
how would they know how OCD the county is?
Just those days at the counter. Or in all those public
Endless-
meetings.
Endless days at the counter.
so do you want to take over? I was vice
would-
chairing.
Yeah, you were just, Mr. Coughlin was just giving his liaison report.
Yeah, that's fine. You can continue on as vice chair. I was late. I deserve to be bumped to the second string.
It's mostly just me looking at Julie and she's going, yeah, that's what you do next. Were there any particular highlights from that meeting or points that anyone brought up that were like, other than you said the Southwest Committee group had some interesting concepts?
They did. And if I could tell you them clear enough to,
Save the trees.
yeah, they're big
Very
into saving the trees.
Negative about development.
No one else is allowed to move there ever.
That's right.
Right.
NIMBY,
Right.
NIMBY effect.
We're going to poke holes in our water tanks so we don't have enough water for everybody. No, that's not true.
Okay, so we know that's true, but was
It is recording, you guys, just so you know.
anything positive that came from it, or, I mean,
Oh, I'm sure there was.
I mean, it's fine. We're
I'm,
okay,
I'm dreadfully sorry that my skill level doesn't
No,
allow
it's
me to
fine.
do
No,
that.
you're fine.
but like I say, we'll be able to read it, and
I am amazed when I sit down and look at the meeting minutes, the way they're done. That person should come and take part in any organization that I'm part of.
yes, she does a very good.
Yeah, does a good job.
So was the thing that people were talking about there was that folks in forest exclusive zone land wanted to be able to break small pieces of that away to provide housing, different from what
Small
is allowed
housing.
now, like
Yeah.
just small housing, like
That's basically what it
But again,
circled
that's,
around.
that's on a state level.
right
It's
code.
local
Yeah,
level.
as far as what
But
would,
there is some abilities to do it, and some stuff.
It seems that it's a little easier to do it than it was back in the late 90s. During the time that I was on the Structures Code Board, the state was not quick to accept new building styles of any kind. Rammed
Especially
earth
in
or,
use- Especially in use zones. I know it's been
exactly.
real adamant about the use zones doing much of anything.
so with conversations like that moving forward, if we, besides like a bunch of, the representatives in a room brainstorming potential future ideas, kind of like we did about housing at our last meeting.
Yes.
Where does any of that information go after these meetings? Like, when is there a part of the process later that is put into potential action? Does someone have to propose?
So where you're going is, let's see, we're on goal 3 this evening, which is ag lands. You'll have your meeting in November, which will be forest lands. We're going to try and talk you into taking December, probably January, and possibly February off,
Cool.
so that staff can put together all the ideas that are coming out of all of these different groups and pull it together with the ideas that you're coming up with, the aspirational goals, and try and come up with something that is meaningful, and then bring it back to you. Then we also need to start on goal 5. Goal 5 is an enormous goal. It will take an entire binder by itself just for the goals, and it's probably going to be binders A and B, because by the time you get your materials that are going to be your support and your background materials for it, it's going to be large. Now, I will tell you that an awful lot of Goal 5 has to do with mining and quarries in the county and Dogami regulations, so mostly that's just going to be seeing what it is and understanding, how it works, and there isn't going to probably be a lot for you to do with that. But anyway, so goal 5, we're looking at early spring. We have a lot of material to put together, and we have a lot of I think probably some background presentations for you and stuff like that. So we're looking at a hiatus in the middle of winter while we gather everything and then bring it back so that you guys have the opportunity to look at it and do some fine-tuning, some revisions, or just, see kind of what it looks like. I think you'll get a better feel for everything once you see what we've done with it, and then you can go, aha, and pounce on it and start doing stuff to it.
Your staff is amazing.
We have awesome people.
You do. Okay, thank you for explaining. I wasn't totally sure on the whole full process of what was happening.
It's a work in progress. I mean, we're kind of figuring it out to some extent as we go. We know how our public meetings laws work. We know how we have our goals and our policies and all of this material, and we need public input on it. So we have this kind of general idea. But a lot of it, we don't know exactly what's going to come out of the committees. We don't know what everybody's going to do, or what everybody's going to say. And the committees, a lot of times, you're getting some different things. I mean, as Jim is saying, Southwest Group is unique. They've got their own ideas about stuff. And honestly, they don't have, or at least they didn't think they had, any ag lands. But, we ended up telling them, well, you've got some AF zoning down there, and that is ag land. And so anyway, then they got into it, and they had a productive meeting about ag lands. But then we come here, and it's ag land.
Yeah.
It is. And you can do agriculture in the F80 zone, too. I mean, farm use is actually something you can do as a type 1 procedure. So anyway, we got it all over the place.
Awesome. So if we want to go on to the next item, which is the Goal 3 overview provided by you.
Yeah, so let me grab Goal 3 here. And this is Goal 4 that I'm putting aside here. Okay, so some of the conversations that we've had so far regarding ag lands, and so you've got your overview that you probably have already looked at, but mostly we talk about EFU, the exclusive farm use lands, but we can do agriculture, as I just was talking about, in the F80 zone, we can do it in the AF zone, we can do it in the RA zones. Agriculture can happen in any of those zones. It's a type 1 procedure. I mean, we've got people actually doing quite a bit of farming in residential agriculture zones, sometimes on some really small lots, an acre or two. And we've got some people doing some organic work. There's some people who have been very, very successful at it. Are you familiar with Blackberry Bog Farms and
Sure.
some of those folks? Let's see. I think Wendy Agelsoff is, we've got people producing chicken, we've got people producing eggs, all kinds of stuff. You look like you have something to say.
Yes, but that said, we, and again, this is on state level, and I'm sure that everything would be thrown back in your face, but the days of the large farms and the rules of farms and adjacent farms being subject to building or doing anything with your smaller EFU lots, is there any way to change where these smaller EFU lots can actually be developed and have residents with small farms on them? Or is that going to be something that's not going to be allowed at all?
I don't know. Is it something that you'd like to see aspirationally where you
Sure.
talk?
Where you can tax a lot of records instead of having this, the rule that any large farm, even if they don't own it, can still have the right to say whether or not it's part of their exclusive farm area or can be productive in its future, When they talk about all that, you have to have the 3 or 5 years of...
Right. Well, so you were talking about smaller pieces a moment ago.
Correct, and that's what I'm saying. you know, the rules read that they can't, even though they're a small lot of record, if it's a benefit to the whole, that you still can't develop it unless it's a low soil type or something like that.
So with the EFU zoning, and that's an 80-acre minimum, the resource zones are 80-acre minimum, but we have a whole bunch of lots out there
Sure,
that are
tons
substandard in size. Some of them are really small, 3,
Yes,
5 acres,
yes, but
little
you
pieces.
Okay.
You
And-
still can't do anything with them unless you can prove you can meet the smell test on the amount of, you have to for 3 years. make
Out of 5 or...
3 out of 5 make X amount of dollars on it.
As a
before you
farm
can-
use,
yeah,
before you can build a
Before you
house,
can
right?
actually build a house.
Yeah,
And that
I-
seems like it's putting the cart after the horse.
So you're looking for something that would loosen that up a little
Sure,
bit?
sure.
Okay, so,
Because everybody's looking for the mini farm. Everybody. As, you know, being a developer, I'm asked that question every day.
and I should tell you that being a planner, he asks me that question
Every
every
day?
week.
Well, I've had a lot of people want to buy pieces of land
To
that
the
are
property.
EFU zoned, and they to build a house on,
Right.
and they can't. And so then, I mean, I don't mind
They-
personally.
They can, but they have to, like I say, put the
Not-
cart after the horse.
Yeah, not if
They
it's
have-
not. They're
they
not going to. Yeah,
Have to go in there and put a.
Build a farm.
Build a farm without being able to live there, which
right.
small farmers just aren't gonna do that because they just don't have the resources
Right.
to do it.
So would it like to be something where you can, more like something where you could build your house on it and then you have 2 or 3 years to build the farm from there, and
correct.
then you have to show that you're using the land for a certain amount of farm use or something
That's-
to keep it from being like exploitative, but maybe there's a
Yeah,
way to
they're
like,
never gonna go for that because that's making them a policing agency, which they don't have time to.
What about what about a temporary housing? So they can get their farm started and make it productive, because the key is to be profitable.
Right.
And then the only way to be profitable is if you put all your time into your business.
Yeah.
And if you're fiddling around with like wasting your money, I mean, not
Building
wasting,
houses, but
building
yeah.
houses.
yeah,
Actually, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Just the being able to have a trailer or something on it, as long as you're farming it.
Yeah.
Instead of having the 3 to 6 months, what is it, 6 months that you can, 3 months?
You can camp on your own property for up to 30 days out of a 90-day period. You can do a temporary use on a property for up to a year, and you can renew it up to 4 times, which is 5 years. We don't, at this point in time, have that for farming, but is that kind of what you're thinking,
Well,
is
that-
to
that's what
expand
he's saying.
the temporary
I like
use
that.
to permit farmers to get going?
Yeah.
As long as they're showing, that they're developing the property as a farm use to have temporary housing for up to the 3 years out of the 5.
Okay, so this would
I
be
love
something that we would have to, I think what you're looking at then is maybe making a recommendation or a goal that the county board of commissioners approaches the legislature or works with the legislature to change regulations that we can't change.
Right.
So
and that's
is
what
that
he said.
kind of some sort of a goal you'd like to see us come up with in language that we can come back to you with for, something that basically says,
I think that's what he said.
Well, I mean, I just blurted out what seemed to be an easy fix. What is the real long-term goal? You're working in real estate,
Right.
you're working in development, you're a county planner. Are people interested in farming and living that kind of life here in Clatsop County?
I see that a lot.
You see it.
Here's my.
I see two different
Here's
things.
my take on that. You know, we went from big farms where we were dependent on local farms.
Right.
That kind of disappeared after the 60s into the 70s into now everybody's trending back to that because they want, non-processed everything. So a lot of people are trending back to that, and therefore, as you all know, there's a big market for fresh produce and everything else. Therefore, and when we developed this in the 80s, everybody went, well, hell, we got to have these mass farms, and that's where the rule that, if it's within their scope of the farm, that you have to prove that it isn't for you to use your own property in the scope of the big the bigger farms.
Right.
So you're looking to recognize smaller farms and their profitability.
Right.
Okay.
Sustainability and profit.
I do think, I don't know what you said the regulation is now, that you have to show that you're making a certain percentage of your income with the farm use, like, is that what it
Yes,
is?
it's so much per acre. What
You
does
have
it
to
say,
be-
$800 per acre?
It's complex and
And
it
it's
depends
gross.
on,
Right.
yeah, and it's gross
And
and,
it depends on the soil.
right, it
Okay.
depends on the soil type and it depends on what other people in the area are pulling off of the
Okay.
land. There's some different formulas. It is complex and
Right.
it's basically, you have to look at each property individually and apply the appropriate formulas for each one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is not just something
just
I can
make a
blurt out.
blanket
No, it's
statement.
got
Yeah.
2 or 3 pages of single-spaced text in here.
But there is a test for the amount of, you have to make X amount of.
Yeah, just thinking about thinking about sustainability and wanting these people, if we're wanting to encourage people to start up small farms and give them the opportunity to do that in a way that could be affordable. I mean, most of the people that I know that have small farms, which is like 3 people, but they also have other full-time jobs. Like they can't, like one partner works the farm, the other partner has a job that pays for everything because the small farm doesn't bring in the majority of their household income. So I don't know if I don't know what the rules are now or if there's a way to,
Well,
you know what I'm
and
saying?
see, and that's the flaw that I see with the amount, you have to earn X amount of dollars.
Yeah,
Why can't you go on farmland and have a small farm just as a hobby or just something to supplement your income or anything
to
else?
feed yourself and your neighbors
I mean,
with, or whatever.
the way it is now, you have to prove that you're really farming to do farming when the
This
only
is in the
viable-
EFU zone.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a
This is
minute.
in the EFU zone, in the RA 1, 2, 5
Right.
zones.
True.
Hobby
can do-
farm, all you like.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
this is,
Correct.
and on a smaller piece or even a larger piece, if a house is already there, you don't have to prove a thing.
Right.
So what Jim is being explicitly talking about here is where we don't already have a house.
Right, on the smaller EFU
And
lots.
the EFU specifically is extremely restrictive, followed by the F80, followed by the AF. AF is of those groups, it's the easiest of the group.
And this is another thing that should be done on all of them. I mean, I don't understand this, that if we've got tax law of records, you know, Washington was great that way. If you have a tax law of record, you can build a house on it. If it's in an industrial forest, transitional forest, or residential forest. Washington, when they implemented their laws, if it's a tax law of record, you can build a house on it. Oregon, you know, they don't care. They just have the rules, and if they don't pass the rules, you're SOL.
I'd be curious.
There's all sorts of just AF forest lands that don't pass the template tests.
Well, there are a lot. The other thing that we see in my office, on the phone and at the counter, is the number of people who come frequently from outside the state, who are driving through the country and seeing these larger tracts that are sitting there as hay farms or whatever, and they look at it and go, gosh, that's lovely, I'd love to put a house right in the middle of that.
Right.
And so they call, and they have no interest whatsoever in farming.
Exactly.
Zero. They
Yeah.
have zero interest in farming, and they just want to build a house on it, and they do not like hearing that they can't spot zone it to RA something, and they can't because it's in the middle of, other EFU lands.
Yeah.
So we can't spot
And
zone it for them.
I agree with that. I
Yeah.
mean, spot zoning's the devil of everything.
Oh, yeah, no, it's,
That's
so,
what ruined California.
well, right, and a lot of the people who are coming here and looking at these places are from
Right.
outside the area. Some of them are coming from Alaska. We get a lot of people from Alaska. We also get people from California, and some of them from the Southwest now, too.
Probably
Not-
more from California.
So
over
what
the
we're
next
saying is
10 years.
we don't want to take those smaller EFU lots and change them to RA because, right?
Well, we would have to, you'd have to make that change at the legislative level because of
But
the
that's-
soils.
I'm not even talking about changing the RA.
You're not talking about
I'm-
changing the
I'm
zoning.
talking about
No.
just allowability to do something on the RAs or the EFUs that aren't going to be an industrial farm or aren't going to be an industrial forest or,
Like it still would have to be used for farming, but not as the primary income.
Well,
Like
right,
somehow
but I
to-
mean, one
how
thing
to-
I would tell you is that we are seeing people with small acreages, 2 or 3 acres, who are, if they are farming, and really good at it and doing it, they are productive on 2 or 3 acres, on really small pieces. They can do it.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll throw out there is the number of people who are wanting to grow marijuana or hemp,
Yeah,
and they apparently can produce a lot in a greenhouse.
yeah.
And they can do that in an RA zone or an AF zone. And you've got some people leasing from you who are
In an AF zone.
in an AF zone. So, you know,
The sweet
there's,
relief guys.
Oh, cool.
Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Their big thing is on a building that I'm renting them at the
Nice.
airport. It's an AF.
right. And so
Nice.
that's another, it's more of a niche thing, and it's actually, we're seeing a lot of money
Going up to the
from
right.
people.
There's a lot of money there, especially with hemp
Yeah,
now
it's
that
like a
CBD and
hospital.
stuff
They've
is
got
becoming such
Over
a
$1 million inside that building.
popular
Yeah.
medical
Amazing.
use.
Yeah.
So back to this, just to make sure I understand. So you're not wanting to change EFU to an RA.
No.
Just allow smaller EFU lots to have
Allow them
different
some kind of a,
temporary housing.
some kind of an avenue to get to the point
Okay.
of what you need.
Totally.
This is a legislative change.
Right.
Right.
We're, so
And-
we're,
and
we're
it's-
talking.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and I think it's sort of, you can see the legislature leaning towards this stuff. They tweak things a little bit where they're allowing you to use your EFU and AF properties a lot better than,
Well, in the Willamette Valley, I mean, if you start loosening it, I mean, wouldn't anybody want to have a little 2-acre farm down where it's sunny and warm down in the
well, and
Willamette?
I'm not saying take away from the 80 acre minimum to do that. I'm not
Right.
saying
No,
that.
and you couldn't break those up. into
I think that's the devil in details too, that you need to have those bigger areas to prevent the housing tracks, you know.
Totally.
So let me see, let me just throw this past you and tell me if this is fair. So some sort of an avenue to get the legislature, to allow housing on smaller properties if they're farming, and maybe we're talking about some sort of a temporary use type thing where they don't have, they haven't built the house, but they have a temporary, maybe they've gone ahead and put in a septic system and they're using a manufactured home, or they maybe are using an RV, so.
Or
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
the barn with the living unit.
With the apartment type situation?
Sure.
Okay, so that's
I like that.
kind of
Like
a
a pole barn
goal
with
that
a
you want to
second
see
floor
us
kind of
flesh
thing?
out then? Is that your consensus?
I like
Like
that.
the red
Sounds
box,
reasonable.
I think
Yeah,
that
like
sounds
here.
reasonable.
building, have
Okay.
something up in the
I think
attic
it's
Yep.
where you're
a
producing
difficult
your
thing to do
cows or whatever
in order to get all your utilities and everything to a spot like that.
Right.
It's pretty
Right.
expensive.
Sometimes it is, and so
right
that
now, you
has a
can't do-
tendency to
you
cause
can't do
people to
anything
be
until you make-
locating
make the
closer
test.
to like
That's the
roadways
test.
and
That's
utilities.
exactly.
But that
It
actually is
goes
good
into
that. That's a
too,
good thing, yes.
because then they're leaving the tract, even if it's a small tract, they're still leaving it more open rather than sticking something out in the middle of it or something.
Exactly.
Right.
And taking it up. So-
Totally.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's, I'm making a little arrow here with the word consensus, and we'll devise some language around it. I have actually heard something similar to this from a couple of other groups.
Cool.
Who are saying, they didn't, I think you guys are saying it better than they did.
The winners. No.
But I'm seeing that, that's the way, I think that's the way a lot of people want to see it. And so it would be a matter of getting the board to look at it and go, yeah, so we want to approach the legislature. We want to get, but these changes will happen higher up in the framework. It's not going to be instant. But if we set the goal up, then maybe we'll see something down the road.
Cool. That's
And
neat.
we do have a young, energetic representative from this area.
For the moment,
to our
yeah.
house, yeah, for the moment.
Well, no,
No,
I mean, they come and they go.
Oh,
I mean,
I
I've
fully
been looking at the
understand.
newspaper and
Right.
lately, and all over the United States, there's a lot of turnover right now.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
so let's see. So anyway, that actually gets us a lot of it. I think you guys probably really, I mean, I had an overview that I was giving to people, and I was just talking about that early in the development of the statewide land use goals, farmers were devising that the framers were devising protections of resource lands, and they noticed that there were conflicts between ag and other uses, and so they set up those larger properties. And, you know, another question that we had noticed that came up in the goals and in your background materials was that we are seeing that there's a reduction in the lands in the EFU zone, specifically in some of the other resource lands, and we were trying to figure out where that was happening. And so I think that we kind of have been talking about it, and I was looking at it, and so I think some of it is coming from urban growth boundary expansions, maybe a few Measure 49 claims, and maybe somebody mentioned some restoration projects like down in Brownsmead and some places like that where it's farmland. So we see these reductions and it's like nibbling away at it. So there's, you know, the concern about how to preserve that because, you know, every 5 years each city is supposed to take stock of their urban growth boundary and determine if they have a 20-year supply of land for their growth. And so eventually, you know, they're going to keep expanding their urban growth boundaries. And so you have, like, Seaside and Gerhardt are smashed together right at the moment. It will be a long, 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 long time before we see Warrenton and Gerhardt smashed together. But we have a lot of development on the Clatsop Plains. Astoria doesn't seem to be expanding in this direction, and it's not headed east. So anyway, we are seeing a little bit of reduction. Seaside moved up the hill, basically, and they are continuing to look at that up the hill toward the AF zoning and the F80 zoning for their expansion needs. They've passed
Out
it.
of the tsunami zone, too.
Well, yeah, well, they are going to move the children out,
Good.
so, you know,
Yeah.
understandable.
Expensive.
But they can sleep in the tsunami zone.
Well,
But leave
well,
the
no,
tourists
you know what,
down
this
in
came
the
up at
tsunami
another
zone.
meeting, and that is there's a lot more pressure now, apparently, on the east side of the highway in Seaside for housing, and there's a lot more interest on the east side of the highway than there used to be, closer to the ocean. And so we're getting a lot more interest up there. So people are not looking at the tsunami zone as heavily as they used to be. Of course, you know,
Sure,
farther
because the
south.
legislature went, hey, they made it all good. They just, they just erased all the worries of the tsunami zone. We couldn't build facilities, we couldn't build hospitals until some hospitals and people said, hey guys, we need to build our hospitals here. So they just take their pen and they say, we no longer say that we can't have all the public facilities in the tsunami zone. It's as easy as that, and that's what I keep telling you guys. We don't have to go through all this, just take your pen and draw.
If I could take my pen and change the lines around.
The tsunami was the death of all of us. We had to do all this, we had to do all that, and here all of a sudden the last legislature says, we ain't so worried about it no more. You can build your houses and your jails and all your stuff. That's okay now. Correct?
Sure.
Yeah.
He knows
for
I'm
you,
only
Gail.
half. He
That's
knows I'm
for you,
only
Gail,
half
if you're
listening.
Half listening.
Half
Yeah, that's
listening.
for Gail if she's listening on the other side of that.
So do we want to go through the questions specifically written down in the discussion?
If they interest you, if you have things that you'd like to consider for, you know, other. I mean, you've already come up with one basic thing to me, which I think is actually a major component. One thing that came out of the Northeast Area Group, there is, actually we've got several people in that area who are doing farming on 5 acres or less successfully. And one of the, I can't remember the woman's name, Kelly Huckenstein maybe? She said, the goal is written in a really negative fashion towards smaller parcels, and she's doing it on a small parcel and successfully, and she said she'd like to see it be more encouraging and recognizing that you can do a lot of good agricultural activities on smaller parcels, and she just said she'd like to see it rewritten so that it recognized that.
Yeah.
And so I would ask you, is that something that...
That's exactly, yes. what we've
Sure.
been talking about.
Okay, yeah, well, it seems
Because
like
we
that's
don't-
exactly
we
what you're
only have
talking about.
really viable things. Two really viable things that we can do now is farming has to do with cows. That's the only practical thing to large EFU tracks now. And it's either milking or cows, and this area isn't going to produce enough of either one to make a difference in anything in this county. I mean, granted, down in the valley and everything else is a different subject, but this valley should be a smaller, diverse, more type of smaller farms that can do all the produces and even the hemp and the marijuana and everything else.
I mean, are we just talking about the Youngs River Valley and
Well,
just all of that open space that cattle wander around and it's just, you
It's
can't
all
build
seasonal.
houses out there, right?
Well, you can't. The problem with this area here is most of the productive farmland isn't really productive farmland. It's made specifically for cows. Every bit of tide land isn't a sustainable growing type agricultural thing. Anybody that knows tide land knows that there's about that much topsoil and it's too acidic and it doesn't grow anything. The only thing it grows is grass.
And cows.
And that's what it was designed for. And unfortunately, most of the EFU ground in our area is all in tideland,
It's all in that lower bottom
which
land.
is all going to get anything that isn't connected to a residential area is all going to get flooded anyway because it's too lucrative and they're going to flood everything.
So much of that sits with a foot of water on it all winter long. Out
Right, so what,
Lewis and Clark area.
so that was just sort of off the table then, everything down there in the tideland.
Pretty much. I mean, you're not going
That's just-
to go down there and grow corn. You're not going to. I mean, Cowan's tried for years to grow any other non-native grass that's a better grass, and it's never worked.
Wow.
He's tried with different just types of grasses because that's what he's doing. By the way, he's selling out to the New Zealand crew at the first of the year. So,
Oh, okay.
so we're going to have a foreign entity in the dairy business here.
From New Zealand? Mm-hmm. At least they talk funny. That'll be good.
I like the Kiwis.
Yeah.
So
They're very peaceful people.
I just don't know how you can do it on such a small scale, but I
Right.
don't know.
They do
Brad's
sheep
been-
well.
Brad's been doing it, so I guess it'll work.
Yeah.
So then I'm looking at these graphs and stuff, and I see the agritourism, which I feel like is a big part of the conversation of use. Is this what is currently already allowable uses in this little right-hand column that you had?
What does it say?
It says permissible agritourism events and activities, hands-on experiences, demonstration, farm to table,
But-
Yep.
festivals, farm stands.
It's the cart after the horse again. That's in existing areas that already have the infrastructure that you can't quite get to until you prove that you've done that. You get what I'm saying?
No, like,
So if you wanted to go out, let's say you went out and purchased a 20-acre piece of EFU ground that was a bare field, and you wanted to go, well, first of all, if it's in a flood zone, you can't even build an ag building.
right.
But if you want to go build your ag building and stuff, and you could do the tourism and everything on there, but you won't be able to live on it until you get to that
Till you-
3 out of 5 years.
3 out of 5 years that you're using it either as farm or as
Showing the
agritourism.
profit.
Okay. So say you already have a piece of land that's RA2 and it has a house on it and you have your little small farm. You can just do any of these things. You don't have to, is it? And then you've got what it doesn't include: weddings, parties. So someone's not going to have like their mini Burning Man festival.
Well, that's the idea, is that it doesn't become something where you just have this venue, this event venue that takes over and squeezes out the agricultural use.
Right.
And
It's like you can have a wedding on a vineyard, but it's not. It's still a vineyard.
but it's still a
main use.
the primary use is still going to be as a vineyard.
You have to show.
Yeah, you can't be making a bunch of money on weddings.
Right. And
Yeah.
isn't there something that says like how many you can have 2 weddings or 3 weddings a year or something on it?
It's not something
I
that
imagine
we
that.
have in
Okay.
our language. There might be something at the legislative level.
Okay.
But it is a discussion, like, we have a gentleman who's got a property over on Waterhouse Road, and he has been using it for years, decades actually, as a venue, and because of the way it's tucked away, nobody noticed it. And then he went up to get his short-term rental permit because he'd never gotten, or he'd been getting one all along, but all of a sudden they wanted him to
saw
get
everything
Well, no, they wanted him to
rusted.
get a land use compatibility statement because the rental stuff changed. So they wanted a sign off from the planning department on the land use compatibility statement, and we looked at it and we said, well, we can't sign this because it's not a legal use the way it's set up, the way you have it. And he said, but I've been doing this for 20 years. And we're like, but we can't. So we had to work with him to come up with.
Is this the one that came before the planning
Yes, it
commission
is.
several months
Conditional
ago?
use permit.
Yeah, that was,
And what happened on it?
He is set up, and he is, I think, limited in the number of events that he can have annually, but it fits in with his model, so it's okay.
So he's cool with it.
yeah, and I
Everyone's
mean, there
cool with
was some farming that was going on there, and he was having some fish events where his buddies
cool.
would come down and they'd camp out. And we really sat on the commission and thought, are we going to outlaw people who want to have campfires and who want to spend the night? And it was a big deal. It's like, why can't someone spend the night? Why would
Right.
you force them to come to an event and then leave?
You want him to drink and drive?
Yeah, why can't they just stay? I mean, we really
Yeah.
wrestled
Good.
with that.
Good. Well, thanks for doing all of that. I mean, that.
That was some heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Fortunately, this area here, most of the residential grounds are A, which is agricultural, and you can,
Do
that
this.
applies to all of that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and so-
there's
yes.
no one's proposing to change anything about that.
You mean in terms of the zoning,
Yeah.
or to take any of those away?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
The legislature in the last 5 years has just implemented this.
Right.
This is all new.
This is new
This
allowed
was a big
uses.
to-do in the Portland area about people doing this stuff, and it was a big deal.
We had agritourism, I don't know if I want to use the term experts, but proponents come to give advice to the planning commission when we were reviewing the farm forest code updates. And I think that there were several events, I think, where people were really into it. I mean, they
Cool.
wanted to make sure that we were doing the best that we could to make it viable for people in this county, because I guess people like to do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, my wife just did one of those things out outside Hillsboro, and she made glass art, and it's a lavender farm, and they sell Christmas trees, but there's a bunch of stuff going on there. But
that's so nice.
it's really nice.
That's like kind of
really.
nice and wholesome.
Cats
I like
and
that.
goats
Yeah.
and chickens around.
Like
And,
I said, again,
Kind of Sylvie Island, and
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
the nature of all this stuff has changed. I mean, just in the last 20 years, it's, you know, everybody's into this. The homemade, the small, diverse little.
People want to connect with
Collective
other
things,
people
yes.
over social things. You know?
And, well, I mean, it's a big deal anymore.
well, and so there seems to be more appreciation for things that are handcrafted rather than mass-produced, and there's more appreciation for
Yeah.
food that is, I think, what did Jim, you said, not super processed, or, but
You know,
stuff that's,
natural foods is the biggest thing there is. All the mass producers are trying to use that word. It's such a big deal.
so we want to see, we'll build that into the language where we're more supportive of that.
Yeah.
And so we'll come up with a goal. I mean, I've got the ideas down here.
Is this
So-
what people who live around here want to do, though? I mean, I'm always reluctant to assign myself to be any voice of anybody. I'm not from here.
Right.
I don't think like a farmer. I grew up in the
am.
suburbs. You know, like
Right,
I don't
right.
even know what's
No,
going
that's
on.
fair.
Like, I mean,
That's-
I can grow things, but I'm not a.
We have always had a strange mixed community, even back in the 60s, that people they've always been against the major corporations. They chased Alumac's out. They chased, you know, as many people back, you know, it's always been that way where everybody wants smaller, more friendly nature, hunting, fishing, that type of stuff, and don't want what most people want. Of course, you're going to always have, you know, you're always going to have the politics of everything that ruin everything, always. And but I feel that most of the natives, which are, you know, like anything else, what's a native anymore? I mean, I'm a native, and I've got lots of friends that are natives, but I also know people that have been here for 35 years that are from California or wherever else.
Oh, Washington, sorry.
And, you know, so what's yeah,
Right.
what's a native?
I mean,
Doesn't count if you're a native Oregonian and you grew up in Portland.
doesn't count.
Doesn't
No,
count.
I mean, from again, my parents have a farm. I'm friends with the people that have 46 North, and Kelly and Sam that have Spring Up Farms, and I mean, from those handfuls, talking about these kinds of activities, they all want to be able to do that, not as their primary thing, but it would be a cool thing to add as an additional boost. Have like a harvest festival and grow a pumpkin patch and do like a thing and have kids or whatever come make whatever. So then that feels, I think, that feels aligned with the
I think it's
culture
absolutely
of the
wonderful.
community here to me.
But what about the I don't want to call it the densification of land for like small farms and people putting up trailers and things? Are people okay with that? Because that could be considered riffraffy, to some.
Right.
Yeah,
know.
well, I mean,
That's a good
true,
question.
any trailer always sends up red flags.
It sure does.
But
Yes,
there's
it
lots
does.
of nice trailers versus lots of shitty trailers, so.
But there's nothing in the law that's going to say
Well,
how
and
nice
you
a
can't-
trailer
and
you
can't
can have
You can't generalize that.
Well,
an architectural design review committee
So who's
analyzing
the-
trailer facades.
I guess, like you said, we're not asking. They don't want to have to be. The county doesn't want to have to be policing
force.
something.
No.
It's like any other thing, it's gonna have a condition that you do XXX.
So how do you know that the people? So say I buy some land that's EFU. That once, say we change this thing and it's cool that I could put my trailer because and I have 3 years to make it into a farming, and I just don't. What are you going to take the land away or kick me out of my
No,
trailer?
you'll just have to
You
move
don't take
off.
the land away, you just have to move
You
the,
just have to
move
You
the
have to
trailer off
move
the
off
lot.
the trailer
and you
or
then,
off the lot.
and you lose your ability, you could start over or do something, but you use your ability to actually build a house there.
And so
The
that's
the incentive to it is to get what you want in the end.
right. So I think that would help keep the riffraff away, because if the thing is like you have to be working towards building a farm, people that are going to live in a trailer and not work really, really hard to build a farm aren't going to be interested. in
It's
signing
like
up
the
for that.
original donation land claims from the before statehood, where people were encouraged to come here, right? Before any of it was platted, right? There was no. We had just bought it,
Right.
The United States owned it, but there was no formal subdivision of the land that could then be patented and sold off. So to encourage people to develop here, right? The donation land claim said you get to say what you want, right? You get to pick your area, just
Right.
decide it, but you got to do some
You
stuff.
gotta develop it.
And if you don't, you don't get title.
Right.
So maybe this is sort of like a modern day donation land claim, right? To encourage people to come to do that kind of work, and then you have to show a certain progress. And it's not like you lose your land, but maybe you lose rights.
Right.
And then I don't know what the recourse is.
Right.
Well,
So let me tell you a little story.
I hate to tell you.
Does that sound-
You can't have trailers now, and there's trailers everywhere.
I know. Well, that's
There's
what I'm
been
saying.
people
No one's
living in
coming out
trailers
and
for
checking.
40 years.
I'm thinking of
Until they
downsizing to a
until
trailer
they
myself,
complain-
personally.
Until they complain, nobody does anything about it.
So here's my story.
Okay?
As Jim's just got through telling you, we got people living in trailers all over the place, and it is a huge code compliance issue. These are not people who are farming for the most part. These are people who are squatting.
That's my worry.
Yeah,
with
and
this,
they
yeah.
have moved onto property. Very frequently, it's not even their own.
Right.
And
I know,
they're
I just kicked
squatting,
one off.
and trying to remove these people who are squatting on property is extraordinarily difficult. And very frequently, they are doing horrible things like just digging a hole and dumping their sewage in it, or just keeping it in buckets, and dumping it into creeks and things like that. So anyway, putting trailers. It's
Yeah. No, you have to have septic and
it's people. So anyway, when people see trailers going in, they have a tendency to call our office and say, "Ooh," and then we tell them, "Well, you can camp on your own property for up to 30 days out of a 90-day period, and then the recreational vehicle has to go away."
Right.
So you would have to come up with something where they are working toward
Well,
a specific
here's-
thing, and there's a bunch of benchmarks. Maybe
Here's the biggest thing.
have a septic
First of all,
system.
a legal septic system that is up to code and power and water.
So, I mean, I
The
think,
basic rules that you have to have with anything.
so rather than fine tune this and figure out exactly how it would happen, we can just stay with the goal aspirational part of it.
Okay.
Because when it comes down to fine tuning something like this, it's going to take a great deal of work.
And staff can get to work on that first.
Well, and it
then
won't just be, because it's
draft.
going to happen at a larger level than just this county.
Right.
It's going to be statewide. But we do see that the legislature is aware that we got housing issues, and we also need to, keep the farmland farming. So if you have a goal that says we're going to support these elements of it, or movements in this direction, you don't need to fine tune it and build it today.
Okay. So you want us to move
Right.
on, is what you're saying?
No, I don't want you to get caught up in the minutia and
No, I
try
don't.
and solve the world's problems
Let's
tonight.
move on
I
to
know.
cannabis and hemp.
Ooh.
Party.
I mean, I think it's great. I'm not a user myself, but I think it smell. I think they smell terrible.
Horrible.
I mean,
The
I
weed
just
farms?
I
yeah,
just
man.
drove to Barstow, California and back, and all I smelled the whole way was mass
I just
marijuana everywhere.
yeah. I
Everywhere.
just yeah.
You can't
That's just-
smell it right now?
Nope.
I mean, I smell it when people are smoking, and
I'm talking
I
when
get
they're
it. I
venting
get
the
it, but
grows.
the commercial stuff is really a bummer, man. It would be a super major bummer if someone,
Does it smell as bad as like the cows?
No. Well,
Part of the
there
area?
you go.
well, there's
That's the smell.
Exhibit A, right? There are people
There's-
don't like
and-
those
and
either.
That's a great point, because as we know, when we go to Goal 5, you will find that there are specific rules that says you can't make rules against that crap. Literally crap.
Against cow shit? Cow shit will not be
You
regulated?
You cannot regulate farming in any way, shape, or form except for certain health and safety issues. It's actually written there that they or government cannot restrict it in any way, shape, or
So
form.
those people in the like Ebola Hills or Ebola Hills, Ebola.
And then you just go to E. coli.
Sorry about that, marketing people. I remember a story
You
recently.
really
yeah.
like those people.
Well, no, I really enjoy the wineries. But one winery was complaining because a pot farm moved in right next door, and they said that the smell is going to affect the flavor of our wines.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well,
And it would, of course,
And
because
it-
if you've got terroir, soil, you've got air, you've got rainwater,
Yep.
all that stuff is going to impact.
it's true.
Um,
Well, how does the current zoning treat anything like, is there already, I know there's stuff with, if you have an organic farm and it's next to like a farm that's spraying a lot of chemicals or GMO stuff,
That-
even
that-
that can contaminate.
And that would fall under the health and safety portion.
So that
but
would-
it's very vague.
And it's
And
Department of
you have
Ag.
to- You have to prove,
Okay.
that it's making a negative.
Okay.
Right, so we don't have
That's
anything to do with
far
that.
beyond our reach.
We
Yes.
tell folks, that's the Department of Agriculture. Back to the pot farming thing, though. And you can tell I was a kid in the 70s because I'm calling it pot. Got a neighborhood out off of Highway 26, and it's this slice of RA5 that goes back into AF and then F80. And so you've got this neighborhood of RA5, and it's kind
is
of
that Christmas Tree Lane?
no.
Okay.
And nice try though. Thank you for playing. It's campy,
Oh, okay.
and on the corner there is an RA5 zoned property. It is 5 acres, residential agriculture, 5 acre minimum. Some folks have purchased it. They apparently, I think, are from Florida, and their business model calls for them to use shipping containers as grow rooms. And so they are placing shipping containers,
Oh, great.
and the rest of the neighborhood is homes,
Yeah.
kids, families,
Yeah.
and they've got these shipping containers, and I think they're
Full
also
of
going to
weed.
do a large water impoundment, and then the whole thing is going to be, because they have to meet all of these requirements for fencing, and apparently it's got kind of a not a family neighborhood agriculture normal field, these aren't cows out in the field, this is razor wire. So it's a whole different thing. And we got-
Security-wise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we got people in the neighborhood who are alarmed by the way it looks. They don't
Sure.
know if there's people out there who are armed, who are guarding it. They don't want their kids riding their bikes past it. It's a different field than if that was a field of cows.
Right.
Manure or no manure.
It's like a terrorist attack.
It's not what they
Well,
moved out.
That's what it feels like to
Of
look
course
at
it
it when
is.
they don't
Is
know
it
what
anything other than that? If you had a nice, quiet neighborhood, and suddenly
Right.
there was a situation that caused you a lot of alarm,
Right.
and made you worry all day long, what's the difference?
Right. I mean, yeah, the perceived threat is there, but what
Right.
we can't determine
can't,
what will be
yeah.
perceived as a threat to someone,
Right.
to the general public. I think, I don't know, again, like if, when we're looking at exclusive farm use, does tree farming count? And does weed farming, is like any kind of farm, you just farm something?
Any kind
Okay,
of
so
farm.
agriculture is, cannabis and hemp are right in there. It's just a crop. Now, timber, commercial timber is not. That's a different section of code. But Christmas trees, that's agriculture.
Okay. But could you do commercial timber on an EFU zone?
I don't know why not.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you could if you want to. I don't think the soil is as
There
good.
quite a
but
bit
people-
of it.
Okay.
Is the soil okay for it? Because it seems like it's... Because I always see that timber is usually in the Grindbrook, Waleski, Hebo is what really grows it.
Around here, I mean, well, prime example, of course, we made it into a field, but out next to where the log yard used to be out in Lewis and Clark,
Oh,
that all across there was 50-year-old timber when I bought it, and I logged all that, and we've converted it to farmland, and
To
that's all
farmland,
EFU.
yeah.
So would there be a way, or would it be illegal to say something like, if someone wants to farm pot and to not allow for it to be within a certain distance of residential or something, so that we're not freaking out families and stuff and haven't grown,
we have
because
some...
this is a drug. I mean, I'm just curious on either side.
We have some time, place, manner regulations that have gone in, and I don't think we provided it to you, but we have time, place, manner regulations that now do keep it farther away from like other homes and things like that.
Cool.
But here again, I don't do dope, I mean, I've never smoked pot or any of that. big kind
Not
of
even
stuff.
at all?
Not even when you were a kid?
When I was a young man, to impress a girl, maybe I could count on one hand, and I'm never sober. I've never consciously smoked pot in my life.
Okay.
Anyway, with that said, how do you take away from a marijuana versus a winery? I mean, if you're
There's
gonna
no,
say-
there's no difference.
If you're
Right.
going to
There's no
say,
difference.
you can't grow dope here, well, your winery can't be here either. I mean, the problem with land use, and probably the most difficult thing for them probably is determining what is just the NIMBY effect versus what is a real social,
A negative impact.
yeah.
Right.
The difference is wineries and, Kentucky and Tennessee stills, if you've ever done any traveling. I mean, these are nice facilities, okay?
Sure.
And sure, maybe sour mash certain times a day.
You've never
drifts-
been in
drifts-
Arkansas?
Well, yeah.
There's some not nice facilities.
Yeah,
out
well,
there.
there's some stills. Yeah, there's some moonshine. There's some
Just
rock
like-
gut
just
that's
like,
yeah.
Just like Humboldt County, only
Right.
with alcohol.
Pot farms are not really known for generating sort of this bucolic kind of farming lifestyle. They've got
Well, it's
pots
another
and-
situation where
it's
if
just-
the facilities stay small and dispersed, it's much less of a problem.
less of an impact.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't generate the noxious odor. That's the only
Mm-hmm.
issue I've got. I've got
And
nothing against pot at all.
I hate
really,
I
at all.
hate the stinkweed smell, but I also hate even more is the Brad Cowan poo smell.
Well, that's
And the shrimp,
Yeah,
and
there's
the
this
shrimp,
can be
the
bad, but
shrimp is horrible.
it's been better.
The shrimp's
been better this
yeah,
last
the
year.
canning. Is,
Well, when they
yeah.
deliver it from the canneries.
Yeah, that's bad.
Oh my God.
Enough of the people out our way have gone and talked to him, and he's trying to make it be less of a problem.
Well, it's the nature of the beast is the problem.
Well, it is. And my wife grew up on
No pun intended.
a 300 cow dairy in North Dakota.
Oh yeah.
And their cows just dropped everything in the field. and it's the little
But-
bit that you put in a spreader.
But I guarantee you that Broad County wouldn't like to have to contain all the poo and then take it and disperse it in the proper manner, but the government makes them do all that. All that is required.
What
You
what
can't-
would he prefer to do? Just put it in a lagoon?
Probably just push it out back like they used to do.
Yeah.
Now it has to be all contained, it has to run into their containment area, and then they have to disperse
Well,
it
particularly
in so
when
much.
He's
of
got such a
spray.
low-lying dairy that you have water issues.
But that's
And-
the part that really bothers me,
Yeah.
is that
And
contamination. That's just,
the west and south side of my house is what catches the drift. And the west side particularly, I could probably grow grapes up the side of 2 stories of house just because of all the debris that gets blown up against it.
Fertilizer
Nice.
that get,
Yeah,
Oh,
that sticks.
yeah.
Well, the moral to that story is you stay on the northwest side in the summer and you move to the southwest side in the, or, north,
Right.
southwest in the summer and northwest in the winter.
Well, the only time we have an issue is if we have a
Wind
family
blows.
picnic.
In other words.
Oh.
Then you can count on it.
Right, yeah.
That'll be
it's-
when
the wind changes.
Well, we'll be curious to see how the Kiwis do it.
Well, I'm wondering, with it changing hands, do they just step in and
Sure.
maintain it the same way?
In fact, the kids keeping the equipment and the kids gonna subcontract to them. They're just gonna have the actual dairy and the ground,
where's the dairy?
everything out in Youngs River, all the fields, basically.
All those low
Right
fields.
on,
That's
the
all-
right
where the
side
church is on,
Oh, that's
Except
Lewis
the-
and Clark,
except the-
not Youngs River.
Oh, right.
You,
no, I'm
okay, yeah, because
thinking
I
of
live
the
on,
wrong
Youngs
excuse
River,
me.
and I just,
Excuse me. No, you're in beef country. Elwood.
yeah, that's beef.
You're on
Yeah.
the beef side, the
That's-
other side's
that's
the
a good-
dairy side.
That's right, beef versus
It's
dairy.
true.
Yeah,
It
it
is,
is
it's
true.
so
It's
funny.
true, it's Fleurs and
So the cannabis and hemp smells gross, but also, what are we gonna do about
I
it?
go home to
It's
it at
kind
night
of
and
a
it smells just
thing.
fine.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
if it makes you feel
Growing
good,
in
it's
my
good.
dwelling.
right?
That's what I get on the take of what is important in this county.
Are people,
Because if it's beer, if it's wine, if it's distilleries, or it's pot, it is the sainted thing of all times. And here I am
Well,
being.
he's not wrong.
Here I am,
Not wrong.
here I am being me.
Right.
And everybody loves Fort George, and everybody thinks it's such a great thing, which it brings tourism and everything else. But one of the 4 deadly sins that we're gonna give tax breaks.
I know.
And fund, and force our taxes to be higher so that we can have a private entity that makes a ton of money produce,
And they charge a lot of
Alcohol.
money for their beer.
which produce alcohol, which is right up there with smoking and everything else, you know. It's, believe me, I love drinking as much as anybody. That's one thing that I probably have done once or twice in my life. So,
I quit drinking when I started using cannabis
Yeah.
for medical.
There you go.
I just don't.
and I don't
need
get
it.
me wrong. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. I don't think.
I know a lot of people
I
that-
honestly think there are benefits to marijuana. I don't
I
think.
wouldn't be
I don't-
sitting here if there weren't.
I don't think that getting up at being 23 years old and getting up in the morning and smoking pot all day long is really
I want to
not a
be
medicinal use?
which is a
I want to be
well,
a
it doesn't
pot
have to be a
I would
medicinal
like to
use.
be one.
Right.
But I don't think it's a benefit because if I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I crack open a 5th of Jack Daniels and drink it all day long, people think I have a real problem. But when people are smoking pot all day long,
Oh, I judge those people.
they don't.
No, they get
A lot of
judged.
people don't think that that's a problem.
I've got some friends like that. I judge them secretly.
Yeah,
I
I
deal
don't
with
do
them.
it to the, yeah, I don't say
I
it out
deal with them
loud,
every
but
day.
I'm judging them.
Sometimes they're very intelligent, coherent people, and the next time they're
I have a question. Did you have any other aspirational goals regarding agricultural land?
Yeah.
well.
We've
In Clatsop
slipped
County,
into-
what are the agricultural?
I don't
what
think
else
that
is there?
cannabis will be a big outdoor crop here because our weather doesn't.
No.
That's,
well
I
with
guess that's what I
Yeah.
was getting at, and you know,
the indoor growing.
not as bad.
But
It's not near
it's
as
what
bad.
creates all the smell.
The indoor does.
The indoor creates all the
It's
smell because they
concentrated.
vent them at certain times. I can bring it. I can.
He
show
knows
it.
about the
I
industry.
can show it to you.
So
5
if-
o'clock every day. Come on over. You can get high.
So something like bringing all of those shipping containers to create the facility that particular property owner did. All of everything that they did was within their permitted right to do.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is one thing, and that I really think that should be addressed in land use of every state. Shipping containers are about the ugliest thing that there could ever be.
That's for sure.
And why in the hell does everybody get to use them for everything
They're cheap.
on the face of the earth?
They're cheap
I,
and
I
they're
know
durable.
I know they're cheap, but you talk about an eyesore,
Right.
and I have a few of them, but
I'm coveting
I-
those little short ones on the north end of your
I-
building.
The little ones? So I do have one other question then, because if we're talking about just tying in housing again a little bit with this, was like with the, just to make sure I understand how the zoning works, like with what is it, AR2,
RA2?
RA2, sure,
all minimum two,
been a
it's
long
all
day.
minimum 2 acre lots, whether
per
it's RA1.
house,
RA1 or RA2.
still have a minimum 2 acres.
Yes, unless it's anything higher than that is higher than that. The only other one now is RA5s.
So, and
We
so,
have RA10.
We do?
We have the zone, we have no lands in it.
Yes, that's what I know that,
But we don't have
You
any
don't
land in the
have-
RA10, but we have the
the zone
designation.
does exist.
The zone exists.
So,
So
just in case,
why in the hell
we get
didn't
some
we,
new land that pops up.
Why didn't we take F-38s and all those good things, the AF-20s and all those good ones we had back in the day, and make them into some of those?
Farm dwelling.
Concern.
So
F80
the
in
zone, the
R10.
RA10 zone exists, and when it was put into the zoning ordinance in 2010 by a planner you might remember, he was looking at it thinking that there might be some way to use it for some of these smaller AF lands.
Or the EFU, there you go.
Well,
All
I'm
your
throwing
s-
it out there at you.
All your under 10 acre EFUs.
But if the soils would permit, a conversion to allow this, an RA10 zone, because there's a few pieces out there where you've got some, like 40 acres or something like that, or 30 acres.
Substandard lot.
It's substandard and it's not productive, maybe it's on a hillside and it doesn't have the soils. They're out there. So is that something where somebody could apply for a zone change? That would require a zone change. That's
Right.
not something that you would do here, but.
They would,
But-
on an individual
And
basis.
that would
yeah,
be on
lot
the
by
state,
lot.
that would be again on the state level,
Okay.
which is very, very difficult.
And so for like an RA2, if someone, it's my understanding you have your primary house and then you can build a second dwelling if it's for a farmhand or something like that, like a farm related.
Or in the EFU zone, so we have farm help dwellings. A farm help
Farm
dwelling
help dwelling.
is something that, the way the legislative regulations are, and our county ordinance follows it, has to be somebody who is related to the farmer. So a son, daughter, stepchild, whatever. So you can do a farm help dwelling that way. You only get one.
Right.
There is also the ability to put seasonal farm worker housing, where it's somebody, usually a migrant type situation, people who
Right.
come through
Just
seasonally.
seasonally, yeah.
And I don't know that we have a limit on the number of those that you can have.
Is
but
that on
it's-
RA or just EFU?
But no, that's on EFU.
That's on the
On
EFU.
RA,
Isn't there something-
the only other use is for hardship use. and it's
Hardship dwelling.
Technically a temporary, like if
Right.
you have an in-law or something. But that's not true, because now you can do the mother-in-law suite as long as it's connected to a house.
That's what I was
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
What?
Can't you?
What are you talking about?
You could do a,
Are you talking about an accessory dwelling unit? Because in the RA2, RA5, no, you cannot.
you can't?
No.
Really?
You cannot do an accessory dwelling unit, an
There- There
ADU,
shows you, I don't know what I'm
Right.
talking about.
but you can do an ADU in the RCR zone,
Right.
Okay.
but you cannot,
But you can't do it in an RA zone.
you cannot do it in RA1, 2, 5, or 10. No, you cannot.
Serious?
I am
Oh,
completely
now
serious.
Now I learned something.
And
See?
so-
So I know nothing.
Reading this too, EFU zoning, blah, blah, blah. Today the list has grown to more than 60 uses. Primary remains farming, diversified to include agritourism, dog training, and destination resorts. So does that mean that someone could potentially buy a big piece of EFU zoned land and build a huge destination resort out in, I mean, Is that that's
There are
accurately like
definitions
what
for
could happen?
there's a definition for destination resort. You would need to look at what it says. I don't have it right off the top of my head. It has to be so many miles from an urban growth boundary and stuff like that.
It's not a likely.
It could happen. I mean,
Yeah.
if
They were trying to do that before the LNG thing.
Right.
He was actually, Great Wolf Lodge
Yeah.
wanted to go there. And the road and infrastructure stuff wasn't good enough, so they went where they went.
Interesting.
So
But there's no way to really like increase the housing density for the RA land. I mean, I'm not saying that I want to, but I'm just curious. Like, if
Well, so down the road, we might see pressure on the legislature, and we see probably people looking at it. I know that it's a discussion now, is, can we get accessory dwelling units into other zones?
Right.
Right now, we cannot, other than the ones where we, honestly, they're on sewer districts.
Right.
But in the RA zones, you're on septic systems. And typically, they want you to have an acre, this is DEQ, wants you to have an acre per dwelling for a septic system.
Right.
But we certainly see lots of septic systems on smaller pieces
So-
with a dwelling.
So again, and here I am, so why
Yes.
did we take RA1s and make them RA2s?
Because the state required us to.
so, that's all state required stuff. I'm just thinking again, seeing how the cost of living and the cost of land and everything has gone up so much, and thinking about like my generation taking care of our grandparents, our parents. What if we don't want to live in a house with them, but I've got my parents' farm now? Can't put them in a house outside. You got. This is
Exactly.
really how we're
And
going to
it-
look at
and
the
it-
future,
and it
though.
should-
How do we
right.
And
take
it
care of our
should.
ancestors?
And I don't know why, I really thought that it was that way, and I don't know why
Yeah.
they would restrict it.
Yeah.
Because if you've got a 2-acre lot, you can certainly on an 800 square foot
Wouldn't have
accessory
to be
dwelling.
big,
would-
yeah.
I mean, that's the maximum in the other ones, right? 800.
Well, so probably you'll get into this more in the housing, which is goal 10.
Okay.
Wait,
But,
back up.
okay.
Polo Ridge is zoned RA5, and we did,
You have a bunch of density transfers.
density transfers, but it's still zoned RA5, and you allowed them to build it on the end there.
But that's got a bunch of density transfers.
What?
It's
It's still a
Same
one-
with Dune
It's
Estates.
Yeah.
still zoned RA5, and it's still, see, that's where I'm getting this from. You allowed it.
They did not allow it up at Bella Ridge. They discussed it, but that was on a sanitary district.
Zoning's the zoning. It
The
doesn't
zoning's
matter
the
if
zoning,
you've had
but we
density
don't
transfers,
have-
and you did too.
We don't
See,
have,
Right.
I'm just
I win.
fascinated by all of this.
I win.
this
I
is,
love it.
that is a different type of development. That is a,
It's an RA5 rural development outside of city limits and outside of urban growth boundaries.
in a cluster subdivision.
Okay,
So you have greater density because you have all that open space in other places.
but
It's
you
devised differently.
Okay, but I don't agree because we just talked about septics and everything else.
Right, I know.
They're 1-acre lots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, now I gotta go read all night long. You're
Oh,
forcing me
awesome.
into
I
it.
give him something else to do.
I gotta go read it. I'm gonna go read it.
Does everyone feel like we discussed everything that they wanted to discuss in regards to this section?
I have a couple, 3 things that, I'm going to turn into aspirational goals.
Okay.
That it's going to get worked in with other people's stuff, and you'll get to see it and see if it's,
I mean, I'd love to see something that's more encouraging to families living together on a piece of property than like denser development of those properties. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to. I'd rather see families living multi-generationally on properties together than like a bunch of apartment buildings, just in general. Which maybe that.
In this area.
I mean, I think
Yeah,
I'd rather
sure.
see that out here than
Yeah.
out there, not in Astoria, in like city proper. But
Now, the legislature just passed where we can, in AF, can't we put another, if there's an existing dwelling that existed before whenever, 1993?
if we can document it.
You can document it that you can put one more structure on
I'm not sure how that's
They
written.
just-
It hasn't come
just-
up yet.
Yeah, it just passed this last legislation.
Yeah, it's, there's something that, and I don't know the ins and outs of
Yeah.
it enough to
There
be
is
conversant.
there is something along that line where
Okay.
they're doing that.
Cool.
And what is your zone? Is it EFU or AF?
It's RA too.
RA2? Well, and how many acres? Just 2 acres?
I think it's just over 2, but like not quite, not 4. Not enough for 2 whole dwellings. Maybe it's 3.2 or something.
But I mean, if you, like you say, it was a mother-in-law or something, if you can still do the temporary, and it's
As a hardship or
a
something.
hardship, and it isn't even temporary, it's
Right.
forever.
Right.
If they're in need of your care, you can basically put another.
Right.
Right.
It's true. There is no limit on the health hardship other than you just renew it annually.
Okay.
And if it goes 5 years or 10 years or 20, it doesn't matter. You just renew it annually. It's just an annual doctor's note that says, yes, this
Person needs care.
this
help
person
caring
needs
for-
care.
Cool.
And most doctors I know would probably look at something like that and say, yeah, it's better that this person has this level of,
Right. Like at home or close to home
Right.
care. Because that's important.
what's the score?
What, you looking Nats Astros?
Of course she is.
Public comment and input?
What's your interest in it? You just like
Score of the World Series is Game 7.
Well, I know that. Are you a fan
just-
of either
The
team?
Nationals
I don't even-
are losing to the Astros, 1-0 in the bottom of the 5th inning in Game 7 of the World Series.
1-0.
What's my interest there? I am not even really a baseball fan, but I've always been a World Series fan. if that
Who
makes
isn't a
any sense.
Game 7 fan?
Well, no,
Well,
the whole
there's
World
that.
Series. The whole World Series, not just Game 7.
Okay,
But no connection at all.
okay.
I'm more, football more than anything.
And it's, did they say the bottom of the 5th?
Bottom of the 5th, 1-0. Okay, let's go.
I think there's no public comment because there's no public present, right?
Correct.
Nope.
Review of meeting dates and times for the future.
I believe you've got one on November,
It's the week before Thanksgiving.
Countywide is
No,
on the
it's the week-
21st, and ours
it
is
the
on
week
the
after?
26th.
I think it's the week of, you did it the week of Thanksgiving.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh, we did it the Wednesday. didn't we?
November
No.
26th is what I have written.
Is that a Wednesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah.
We did it
Tuesday.
the Tuesday.
You did it on a Tuesday. Let me
Tuesday,
look real
yeah.
fast, but I think you did.
So the 21st is the countywide meeting. I'm going to try to make it to that one too. 26th that was what we
Yes.
decided, so it's,
So you said Tuesday, the 26th, which is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, which is the Thursday. So I will not be here because I traditionally take the week of Thanksgiving off.
Good for you.
Thank you. I've been doing that for 20 decades.
for
20
20
decades?
decades.
It feels like it.
Which? How are you that old?
You look really good.
The truth is out. That's why she
400
knows so
years
much
old.
about code.
The day
400
before
years old.
Halloween, it comes out.
Whee!
I was telling her about donation land claims. She goes, "Tell me all about it."
I remember those
I
days.
remember those days. Yeah, no, so the 26th, I won't be here, but you will be.
Okay. And what you have? My section 4 is already full of stuff. What did I put the wrong thing in the wrong place?
I have no idea what you guys did.
Mine is all screwed up. so-
Here
I
is-
saw you
here
had
is goal
yours, and I'm
4.
going, how the heck do you have yours?
I don't know if I got mine earlier. I put one in the wrong spot. This says
My 4 is wide open.
Yay.
Ooh-ah. There you go.
comprehensive plan update meeting. Oh no, I put meeting 5 in the meeting 4 spot.
Thank you.
Ah,
But it says goal 4 summary report on the one that I have for
Try not
meeting
to
5.
overthink.
This is in number 4 spot? Now you got me all confused.
Because it says, no, I think that Gail gave us the wrong
I don't know. Mine's fine.
thing.
So I'm putting this in number 4?
this is goal 4, yes, so you're going to put this under tab 4.
And goal 4
Just
is,
got me confused.
Forest lands.
I'm a simple man.
Oh, you're not.
I already have all the goal 4 stuff. It just says that it's supposed to be,
Uh-huh.
I'll keep this other one, but I have,
What do you have? What does it say it is?
it's background report forest lands, update. It's the whole packet. How can this be?
I don't know.
But she gave it to me, apparently, Gail gave it to me on September
Because you're
10th.
the teacher's pet.
Oh, the truth is out. She's a witch. You're the teacher's pet.
Where even was I September 10th? How is this possible?
I don't know, but do you already have goal 4 then?
I guess. Now I'm
How
curious.
did you
if
get it ahead of us?
I don't know. I don't
She's a
do it.
teacher's
I don't
pet.
even.
Yeah.
I thought I
She
didn't
gets-
even go
She gets
last
the
time.
test early.
I'm maxed out. My folder can take no more.
Yeah, no, this is, goal
This is
4
it.
is going to do it
I'm
for your
done.
files.
Do you guys have something in the 5?
No, ma'am.
No.
No.
So next time
Making
around,
sure I didn't miss anything.
for goal 5, you will get new binders. Goal 4 finishes this binder.
Is mine already as big as yours? Yeah.
Yeah, we got the same exact amount of stuff.
But then I just am not going to double. I don't want to have the wrong
Wow.
thing.
Take that home.
You're going to
Sort
agonize
through it.
over
I
this
think
until
you have a double set, because you've got one.
I always want to take these from
I
you,
do,
but I never
but
do.
I didn't take, you're welcome to take your turn carrying that around if you want.
Oh,
I've got scoliosis.
Maybe I was given it for and I was supposed to put it in the other packet?
Probably.
In the countywide.
Okay, I'm going to
yes,
watch
it goes in the
Same
countywide
difference when I
packet.
put this one and that one,
gonna
are
be
they
good.
identical?
Thank you, sir.
I carry everything with a hand.
That's not a bad idea. Is this the same information, so I could just put this one
everybody
in?
Should
done
be.
eating. I'm going to take my,
Get out of here.
Take your stuff
Oh,
to lunch.
meeting adjourned? Is that thing? Do we vote
Yeah.
on something?
You don't have to, you can adjourn.
You can adjourn. Just
Okay.
you got to do it. There you go.
There it is.
6:51, you are adjourned.
6:51. Thank you.
Nice work, chair. Hard. If you have a nice